I guess this partly grew organically out of the fact that we've been working together. The Museum of Fine Arts has a sister museum in Nagoya, Japan, and we were approached by that museum to do a Dine show because we have a promised gift of an archive of Jim Dine's editioned prints, which is running around 850 now. Jim is a great traveler. He's a very restless guy. He's a very itinerant artist. He just arrived last night from Paris. He's going this afternoon to New York. The prints now, which he's made for the last 50 years at least, run around 1,000 pieces. I wanted to ask him a very simplistic question to begin with. That is one of the beginnings of the catalog essay. How did you first get into or make a print?
When I was 17, I bought a book. I'm from Cincinnati. I bought a book called Modern Prints and Drawings by Paul Sachs. And I was not aware of most of the things in the book, but many of them were prints. And particularly I was taken at the time with Nolde woodcuts and other German expressionist woodcuts. And I was in my last year in high school, and I lived with my grandma, and she let me do what I wanted, and I went down in the basement and just started to take pieces of wood and cut them and print them. And I had no idea about editions or anything like that. I liked taking it away. I'm dyslexic, and so I've always known what they're going to look like backwards. So it wasn't a great surprise. What was a surprise was the physicality of the marks I had made through cutting, and realized that you could print anything. By that I mean I could have inked up the floor and walked on it and pulled it back, and there was always something thrilling about this to me. And even though I thought of myself as I was going to be a painter and sculptor, but I always printed, and I kept on printing in my basement until I went to Ohio University in Athens in 1954, into 54, and I took a printmaking class, and it absolutely thrilled me. Everything thrilled me, etching and lithography, and the guy showed me basically how to do it. I kind of hated trying to get everything even all the time. And the idea that if I did it once, why should I do it again? Because there was no commercial world for me then. So it was just one of. But I was just, because of Paul Sachs's book, and then what led to that, the romance of printing really got me. And the summer before I went to Ohio University, I got a job in the museum in Cincinnati as the assistant guy to a guy called Gustav von Groschwitz, who was the print curator. And he held a color lithograph biennial. And so he needed some dope to mat them. So I got to touch everything. I got to touch Miro's and Picasso, and it was like a religious art. It was like the Shroud of Turin, something like that. Or Allen Ginsberg once told me that he had sex with Walt Whitman's last lover. And I thought this is what it was like. I had my hands on the Picasso, and so then I went to Ohio University, and I stayed for 6 months, and then I got restless, like always, and I applied to the museum school and got there and had a horrible time at first because some guy wanted me to paint trompe-l'oeil paintings, and I made this setup to paint them, and it was enough for me, the setup. I mean, what was the point of painting it? I already made the thing. And so I walked downstairs and I saw they were printing, and there was this guy, Tory Banks, and he said, "You can do what you want," which is exactly what I've always done. And so I went back to my apartment in Brookline Village, and I went to a lumber yard, and I had 7 pieces of pine cut, and I cut what I called the 7 deadly sins. Then I had a very unhappy relationship with a woman and went back to Ohio. I never have stopped. It just, for me, it is the primary activity of my artwork. Everything else is affirmed by it, because it's so much about drawing, and for me, drawing is everything.